And for whatever reason, these two things really spoke to me. These two very niche, however you say that, things, weird ass death metal that's not going to make me any money, and building muscles and spending a bunch of money to have muscles. You know what I mean? Like, this fucking ruined my life already, like, so. Hey, so my name's Eric Alper. I'm in the band Replacire. I play guitar. I also manage the band, and I'm the founding member.
Your band, Replacire, it's already gotten an incredible amount of kudos over the years. In fact, according to Loudwire, it was among the 5 top bands to watch grow into the next generation and push forward to a new era of tech death metal bands. That's already like incredible kudos for you and your band.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, Loudwire gives us a lot of love. It's really cool that they do that.
I was going into your history and going into the band and everything that you have available on your was it SoundCloud, as well as where else are you hosted?
Like Bandcamp.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's on Spotify and Apple Music. It should be kind of blasted everywhere, but yeah.
Your band has an incredible amount of fan support, and this is nothing new. You, Replacire, started off, correct me if I'm wrong, with a Kickstarter project, and from there has grown over the years.
Yep. Yeah. We did our first album self-funded, before we were with Season of Mist, our label. And, we scrapped together as much cash as we could as a bunch of college kids, and we did a Kickstarter. We had an engineer who was kind enough to work with us with our limited budget. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we recorded it mostly in his apartment. We did drums at a studio. But yeah, that was the first album. Was that like 2012 or something?
Yeah.
I should know, but it's all a blur. Yeah.
Well, I do know that Do Not Deviate was released 7 years ago in 2017. And there's been a 7-year journey from Do Not Deviate to the album that's actually going to be coming out very shortly on June 21st, The Center That Cannot Hold. And there had to be a reason why it took 7 years, not counting that fucking pandemic.
Yeah. There was that. There was that. Yep. But lots of reasons. It's being in a band is tough.
Yeah.
Like in general, it doesn't generate money. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of money. The guys that were in the band for Do Not Deviate did as much as they could, and getting through that album was pretty tough. Mm-hmm. And when we got through it and released it, a lot of them chose to leave the band. So right when you release an album, you're like, oh, let's go on tour. We got all this hype. We got all this buzz. Yeah. And I got no members. Right. So it took a while to build that back up. We did a couple with fill-in guys. We did what we could, and it took a couple years to have a solid lineup again. And not to say you can't write while you're doing that, but I'm trying to write what I can or whatever. But I don't have a band, and so that took a big chunk of time out of the whole thing. Then we did solidify a lineup, and that takes time to develop a relationship that you can compose well together in, and the writing process was pretty difficult. The other guitarist, Pohak, who is a savant, he is so good. He is incredible. When we first started writing together, he was writing a lot of stuff that was very much like his solo stuff. If you're familiar, or anyone out there listening is familiar, very proggy, very techy, not metal, not heavy really, metal, but not death metal, like Replacire. I like it to be heavy. Yeah. And so we fought a lot, like he was being kind of stubborn. I was being kind of stubborn, and we were just boom, butting heads. And we had to do that for a while, and then we reached kind of an equilibrium where we could compose well together. He started to get what I was going for. I kind of started to get how I could, take his stuff to where I was trying to go. And then the whole time too, myself, I've just burnt out. Like it's hard for me to compose. It's hard for me to write. I had so much to prove when I was doing the first album and Do Not Deviate, it was like, you know, a lot of that was my stuff, was my riffs, you know, and
Right.
on this album, it was like, hey, Pohawk, I don't know, I have like this half a riff idea. And he'd take it and he'd finish it, and I'd be like, that's exactly what that should be, you know, great. And then he would just go from there, and I'd be over his shoulder almost, you know, he'd be in front of the computer, demoing it out, and I'd be like, yeah, and then this, and then this, and then there, you know, so like, you know what I mean? And so I was just like up his ass, like, yeah, dude, yeah, do that, no, put this part here, you know. And so, you know, a lot of it flowed through him. And then the other guys would be there too. Joey, our drummer, Zach, our bass player. They'd be, you know, submitting ideas. We'd be talking about arranging. So yeah, dude, it just took time, you know, just the music's so dense. It's hard for me to come up with stuff. There was a lot of pressure on Pohawk. So, you know, just so many hours and so many days translate to just a couple seconds of music. And we would even do these things, we called them grind weeks, where we'd try to put aside as much time as possible for a week and just work on music, you know. And I'm self-employed, so I was able to kind of just tell everyone, hey, you know, not available this week, whatever. But the other guys, you know, they had commitments. So, you know, me and Poe, we'd sit there for most of the 12-hour day or whatever, and the other guys would kind of come and go, but be there as much as they could. And we would just grind. And we get, you know, a little more done than our usual once or twice a week.
Right.
But it just took so much time. It's like, it boggles my mind how some bands can churn music out every year, every 2 years. Like, I am not that gifted. I can't. Myself. If to say this band is mine is almost a stretch, because I can't just sit there and go, all right, guys, here are your parts. You know, everybody contributed. You know, everybody worked. You know, I had my hands in all of it. You know, like Joey was writing his drums. He'd send it to me. I'd edit some stuff. I'd send it back. You know, me and James with the vocals, we went back and forth the whole time. Like, you know, like I'm very much involved in all of it, but by myself, like, forget it, no way. You know, and I think some other bands, when we have the one guy who's like the composer,
right,
and that's how they can churn it out, but that's not me, you know. So it took 7 years, you know. It was like, it was crazy. Yeah. So anyway, in a nutshell, it's kind of what went down.
You touched on like a whole bunch of tangents that I want to come back to, including
whatever you want,
including your self-employment as well as like the growing pains. But you said dense. And how dense your style and your music and your band can be. Your band, from what I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your band is really good at taking something simple and then making it dense and making it intricate over time. Even your band name is something simple, but taken and making it dense and intricate. And
I appreciate that.
You guys seem to be the masters of doing that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's something I really try to drive home when we're writing, because it's funny, you know, because like I like simple music. Yeah. Like I love deathcore. Yeah. You know, Knocked Loose. That shit makes me want to run through a wall. You know, but, and it's the simple, you know, gong gong gong, whatever. Like, you know, but I write that, and I'm like, no, it's not good enough. This needs to be more clever. This needs to be more something, you know, whatever. And I kind of just drive myself nuts. Like, what can the drums do? What can the bass do? What can the vocal, you know? So thank you. Yeah, thank you for noticing that. That's something I for some reason I've always just wanted to create is, you know, something that's technical and sort of dense, to use that word again, and maybe even clever, but also isn't so technical and over the top that it's like wank. Yeah. You know, somewhere that blurs those lines. You know,
it's like a fine steak. It is simple on its basis, but you get into it, it's like there's something else to this. Yeah,
it's well said. Yeah.
Your self-employment. We mentioned briefly before we started here that you work in a studio. You have a studio, and you work with other artists as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'm a producer. I'm an engineer. Mix engineer, mastering engineer, wear all the hats. I work at a studio called Ugly Duck Studios. It's here in Massachusetts, specifically Dorchester. And I'm not an owner. You know, I work out of there, but I'm best friends with the owner, so I can't take credit for owning the place. But I've worked out of there for a long, maybe since 2014 or something. That's been my home base. Okay. So Yeah, it's what I do. It's how I make a living. I love producing metal. It's my favorite. It's my bread and butter. But I've worked with every genre you can imagine. I do that. I also do fitness coaching as well. So kind of my two passions, music and muscles, are my two things that I like, and I've managed to squeak a living out doing that stuff. And yeah, it's good.
I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to assume, but I'm on the same boat. I'm a training bodybuilder. My girlfriend has been a competing bodybuilder for 8 years now, and she's actually training me. Though
that's incredible.
She's in the bikini category, and I look like shit in a 2-piece. But
no.
But yeah, no. I'm 44 years old. I'm going to be training. I'm training now, and maybe hoping to hit the stage for the first time in my life when I turn 45 next year. So yeah,
dude, yes, I love that. I love that so much. You hit me up anytime for advice for anything. That's the whole other side of my life. I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I competed at nationals in December.
You?
Yep. I got 16th out of 44 in the light heavies.
Wow.
I won a contest called the Eastern USA's here. I won the overall as a light heavy. That's
incredible.
That's a big other part of my life. Oh yeah.
Okay, I got to hit on that then. What quickly? Yeah. Like I know we're talking about music, and I want to continue to focus.
No, every interview I've done this week we get here, so go for it. Yeah.
What sparked this passion into fitness?
Yeah, it's I started when I was really young, so I'm turning 34 on the 17th, and I started when I was 11.
11.
Yeah. Really young, and guitar when I was like 8.
Wow.
So these things have been happening for a long time, and there's a lot of parallels between the two. It's a lot of consistency, it's a lot of discipline, it's a lot of slowly building over time. You know what I mean? Like same way you click up with a metronome. With the riff you're trying to play or the lick you're trying to play, same way, with the weights and the reps, and right.
Yeah. A
lot of consistency, same stuff. And for whatever reason, these two things really spoke to me. These two very niche, however you say that. Things, weird ass death metal that's not going to make me any money, and building muscles and spending a bunch of money to have muscles. You know what I mean? This fucking ruined my life already.
I relate 100%.
Girlfriend's a competitor. Have you seen her prep? She's probably fucking miserable.
Oh yeah, she's. Yeah. I love her to bits.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, that's me. So going back to what we were talking about making the album, if I'm prepping for 4 months and I gotta sit there and chug my black coffee and I'm just thinking about my next meal while I'm trying to write a riff, I'm like, guys, sorry, I'm brain dead. I can't do shit. You know what I mean?
Oh no. Absolutely. I know that feeling all too well. I actually just recently came off of a cut. I'm a radio host, my 9 to 5. And towards the end of my show, I'm just like, this is, who the fuck am I?
It gets hard. Yeah. It gets so hard. That's sort of the, there's a lot of pros and cons to being self-employed, but I've been lucky enough this last season anyway. I put myself in a position where I was able to save up a little bit of dough and kind of just tell everybody that I was booked, I was unavailable, for the last 4 weeks of my prep.
Right.
So I could just not have to be around anybody, not have to think, not have to put on my customer service, when I'm just so uncomfortable and so miserable. And it's on you to not take that out on anybody because it's self-inflicted. It's like, there's no reason why I should be a jerk just because I'm choosing to do this thing to myself, to be this lean and uncomfortable and hungry.
Right.
But it gets so difficult to, especially at the studio, to be creative, to be personable, to be understanding, to be all these things when you're just in the shit.
Right. Yeah.
No, right. So anyway, yeah. So you get it. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool that you're into it. Your girlfriend's into it.
So no, she absolutely loves it, but it's one of those love-hate relationships. And she's hoping to she's been off a season for about a year. She's looking to get back onto the stage next year. Her and her coach are doing really, really well together. So
Yep. That's fantastic. I love to hear that. Yeah, nice long off season, year-long off season. She probably made some really good improvements.
Yeah,
and forgot how stressful it is to prep. So you almost get excited for it again, and then you do it. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I remember because I was on the outside, but this time around, I'll be with her with it.
Hey, the fact that your relationship lasted through a prep or multiple preps, that speaks volumes, because that nothing will ruin a relationship faster than someone prepping.
It's trying times. I agree.
Oh yeah. It's tough.
Back to music. You mentioned fighting and butting heads and whatnot, and a lot of bands actually go through growing pains, but fighting and trying to break down walls and open up lines of communication can actually create an incredible bond within your band. I'm sorry that there was a point where you found yourself without any bandmates in a brand new album, but like this new lineup that you have here seems like you guys are really gelling well together and communicating as best as possible.
I'd say so. Yeah, there were some rough times for sure. I mean, you could ask any of them. I'm sure they hated my guts, a lot. And because I'm kind of tough when it comes to this. But they didn't quit. They didn't back out. They stuck it out, and we made what I think is a pretty cool album. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it probably did strengthen our bond somewhat, and we know a little better how to communicate with each other and stuff, and everybody's so different too. Like you kind of have to have a different communication style with everybody, and like James, for example, our singer, he was the vocalist for a long time for Black Crown Initiate, and so he's a little older than me. He's been around. That band's much bigger than Replacire. They've done way more tours, way more albums. You name it. Working with him is like, I can be like, dude, that sucks. And he can be like, oh yeah, probably. Well, what should I do instead? Just like no ego, right? Like no ego at all. He's just down. Let's make it good. You know what I mean? Other people in the band, you have to be a little softer, right? Like, but him and I, when we work, it's just like, cut to the chase. Let's get it done. So
The Center That Cannot Hold is going to be released on June 21st. And pre-sales have been going out for just over a month, I think, or maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, what can someone expect with the release of your brand new album?
I think it's our best music to date, for sure. It's heavier, which is what I've always wanted the band to be really heavy. For some reason, the other two albums, I don't know, they didn't quite hit that mark. The first one borders on goofy. Yeah, I kind of have a hard time listening to some of that stuff. I don't know. We were young. It was like maybe more on the prog side than the metal side, Right. And then Do Not Deviate started to get there, with some stuff. But then this one, I feel like we really embraced the heaviness. So what can you expect? You can expect like heavier riffs, breakdowns. We have a really techie song on there that's like pushing over 200 BPM, very blasty, which we have never done before. And we went into it with like, let's make like a fast, blasty song that we've never done. Let's do that. So definitely some new stuff, but also I think it sounds very much like Replacire, like what I imagine the band to sound like as it progresses. So, anyone that's been with us from the beginning is going to be like, oh yeah, that's those guys. And maybe anyone that discovers it as a new album could just be like, wow, this is like pretty cool, heavy, unique, Yeah. That's what I hope for anyway.
Talking about your earlier work and also the fact that you work in a studio and you work with other artists, musicians, different genres of music and whatnot, it is important, I feel, as though you take a look back and go, okay, so I know where my mind was, but I can see the mistakes I was making there. And also looking at other artists going like, okay, I can see how they're struggling and this is how they work around it. Do you feel as though you get influenced in a positive way by being immersed in the industry as you are?
Yeah, well, what's fun about being on the outside of other people's projects is I can really see it for what it is or hear it for what it is, right? Like it's very easy for me to say, oh, this part should obviously have a harmony. Oh, this part should, maybe be extended or shortened. And this part, because I'm not emotionally attached to it. Right. right? They are. So I have to deliver what I think in a way that they're receptive to, depending on the person. Yeah. But it's easy to hear what it should be, and if they've got it 90% there, I can take it the extra 10, no problem. Yeah. Right? When I work on my own stuff, it's hard because you are emotionally attached to it. Yeah. You can't hear it objectively on the outside, right? So trying to maintain the producer brain when I'm working on my stuff is tricky, but that helps sometimes, especially if, like I was saying, I'm standing over Pohawk's shoulder, like what should it be, right? So yeah, definitely there's good crossover there.
Yeah. And taking into consideration the work that you put into the brand new album, The Center That Cannot Hold, there has already been a couple of singles that have been released, and so far the feedback has been immensely positive from your fans. Yeah. And your fans have some of the best sense of humor I have ever seen. On the video, like, I just had to grab a couple because it made me laugh, like, burst out loud. Some comments?
Yeah. What do you got?
On the album of Fine Manipulation, someone on Instagram mentioned, this song turned my Coke into Pepsi. It's so menacing. And on YouTube, someone said, I played this song at home and now my cat is walking on the ceiling. Fun metal for the whole family.
I love that. Yeah. That's so good.
And I had to listen to a Fine Manipulation, an incredible song. And
thank you.
So you taking in like the 7 years, the staffing of your band, the bringing in of different talents, working on this project, that project, and being on the outside of other artists. Do you feel as though that looking back at your first album, like there is so much growth from there to now that this is the new standard for your band?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. For so many reasons, the arrangements of the songs, the depth of the riffs, the production. The production definitely is lacking on that first album, despite our best efforts. So yeah, 100% to your question. Definitely a new standard. You always leave something to be desired. They say a project's never really done. You just run out of time and money, and I feel like that is true. Right? Yeah. But yes, definitely very proud. Definitely a lot of growth for sure.
With the release coming up again, June 21st, what is the next step? I can only assume that you've tested out a few of these songs on live bands previously, but what is the next step after the release?
I wish that were true, man. We don't practice. We don't play shows. I wish we could. I miss it. I've got 2 members out of state. I don't have a rehearsal space. I don't have a touring vehicle. It's kind of almost impossible to like get the band on the road financially right now. I live in Boston. My rent is fucking like $2,000 a month. Like I pay bills. You know what I mean? I'm self-employed. Like I said, I have good months and I have bad months. You know what I mean? To just pick up and ship off for however long, it hurts. And I think the other guys are in a position where if they were to do that, they would probably expect some sort of payment. And who's going to do that? Me? How? Right? So,
that's fair.
If we had some sort of financial backing or whatever, or like, we're not a huge band. You know what I mean? Like we go out on the road. There's good shows. There's lots of bad shows. We're like maybe you don't make any money or much money, and it's just a life that I don't know if I really want to live right now. It's just hard. The reality of being on the road is just really difficult. I would love to do maybe some sort of big local banger. That'd be sick. But even the overhead for that, flying the guys out, putting them up for a couple weeks, rehearsing, finding a rehearsal space, all of that for like one night where we make a couple $100 maybe, right? And I hate to put it all down to money, but just like when you're 34, man, it's like I don't know. I'm not 22 anymore. So I wish I could say, yeah, we're going on a tour. Everyone's gonna hear these these songs, gonna be awesome. But reality is probably the album's gonna go out into the world. I hope people really like it, and keep the buzz going as long as we can. But it's about what we got.
Well, like you and your bandmates, like again, that connection between yourself and your fans is incredible. Again, great sense of humor, but also the camaraderie, and it feels as though that you have the support and the backing of your fans. Can you recall the first time you felt as though like, wow, like the support is just here, and how, and thank you, like that moment, that feeling?
Yeah, there were a couple good moments for sure. One that sticks out is we finally did get a show together. You know, I had a lineup strong enough to do a show after the release of Do Not Deviate. I think we had a fill-in singer and maybe a fill-in drummer. I can't exactly remember who was on stage with us that night. But we played just like a small place here in Boston called O'Brien's. It's not a big room, 75 cap room, but it sold out, and there was a line out the door of people waiting to come in. And I was like, no shit, like a year after the album came out, all these people want to, you know, it wasn't thousands in a stadium, you know what I mean? But it was like, the bar is full, people are here, people are excited. Like that was cool, you know, that was really cool. Yeah. And then a couple times when we've been on the road, one in particular, we were somewhere in the South, I can't remember what state. It wasn't a huge place, little bar, which is like a little stage, you know, kind of up off the floor. And we were getting rowdy, you know, it was that point in the tour where we were drinking, we didn't give a shit anymore. And, you know, like my hair used to be long, we're headbanging, playing the show. And people were just, however many people were there, 30 people, 40 people, whatever, they were into it. They were really into it, you know. And then the set ended, and people knew our names. People knew some bands that I had worked with in Boston, some records that I had produced. Like they kind of knew who we were. They were like fans. And I was like, wow, this is really amazing. Like, you guys are actual fans of us. This is like super cool. So yeah, moments like that were very validating for sure.
That's cool. It never gets old, does it?
It's a crazy feeling. It's like me. Hey, are you serious? You know, like, come on, dude. Who am I? You know, I
was just gonna say that's like one of my favorite lines. Whenever someone's like, "Well, I know you," like, who the fuck am I?
yeah. You got the wrong guy, I think.
Yeah.
Yep, I know.
That is awesome. Okay, so for those who are uninitiated, where can they find your work? Where can they find your studio? And what can they expect in the near future?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, to find me, I'm on Instagram, Eric Alper, First Call Out Fitness. It's mostly bodybuilding stuff there. You know, of course, the band Replacire has a page. They're on Facebook as well. The band stuff, anywhere you listen to music, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, you know, buy the record, buy the CD, whatever. Ugly Duck Studios is where I work. You can Google that. We'll come right up. Eric@uglyduckstudios.com is my email if you want to shoot me an email if you're interested in, you know, mixing, editing, if you're local and you want to come record whatever you want to do. Yes, that's kind of where we're at.
Cool. I got two questions for you, two completely unrelated. One of them I've been asking all of my guests for the past year. Another one I just want to ask because of your bodybuilding background. Sure. So the bodybuilding question is, what is one myth that you wish would just disappear from the fitness, health, and bodybuilding world?
Oh yeah, there's a lot, but you know what's been coming up a lot lately is that you can't eat at night.
Really?
I hear everybody that consults with me. A guy in the parking lot, I was leaving the studio. I had a session early this morning, and the guy comes up to me. He's working in the road, you know, construction. He's like, "Hey, excuse me, can I ask you? You know, you have a great physique. Can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah." And we're talking about food or whatever, and I was kind of showing him my diet or whatever. He's like, "When do you eat your last meal?" I was like, "Before I go to bed." He's like, "You can do that?" I was like, "Yeah." I thought you weren't supposed to eat at night. No, dude, you can absolutely eat at night. It's okay. You know, so, you know, I get that a lot. That's a big one. You know,
the fitness police are not going to come knocking on the door going, "Hey."
No, after 8 p.m. it all goes straight to fat, you know.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. My goodness.
Oh, yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, I hear it so much.
Okay. Yep. And the question I've been asking all my guests is, what was your first paying job?
First paying job, like ever in my life?
Yes.
It was probably doing construction with my uncle.
Oh, really?
When I was a kid, a young kid, probably like 11 or 12 or something. I think he was remodeling a house, and I was in there, doing the demo. We were ripping down the drywall, and I had my hammer, and I was pulling all the nails out, and he was paying me, you know, maybe $10 an hour or something. And I think that was my first job there. Some construction. I did a lot of construction when I was younger.
You don't say.
Yeah, yeah. Eric, how's your back so big? I don't know, wheelbarrows and fucking lumber and shit. You know, I don't know. Buckets, picking up buckets. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a great way to basically break into the working world. Why not?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate your time today. The new album comes out June 21st. The band is Replacire, and the new album is called The Center That Cannot Hold, and I'm looking forward to its release.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thanks for making it to the end of this episode. Big thank you to you for watching, or for listening, or for checking out my website, TheMediajack.ca. There is where you can find other episodes, other content that I create, as well a link to the Patreon where you can support my show, all my work, directly. Also, where you could submit ideas, suggestions, or maybe you want to ask a future guest a question. Patreon is where you can go for all of that and so much more, and also get a shout out, just like Red Wolf Dawn, our executive producer for this month. Big thank you to you once again, and check out TheMediajack.ca. The merch is there. You can get a really comfortable shirt like this, supporting the Media Jack or my partner, the Iron Bikini. Or maybe you just want to get yourself a good mug or a gym shirt or something else that tickles your fancy. TheMediajack.ca. Take care.